We're going to try to demystify the Linux file permission. Well, they seem daunting at first. They're incredibly practical, at least once you understand them. You might be asking, what is a file permission, right? So in Linux, file permissions determine who can read, who can write, and who can execute a file. So now we're inside of our Linux server, and we're going to actually do some hands-on for the Linux permissions. We're going to start off by looking to see where we are right now. So let's do a print working directory. Looks like we're inside of the root. If I go inside of the root and I do an ls, we're going to create a folder here. So we're going to say make directory, and we're just going to call this permissions. And there's our folder. And let's actually do a ls minus la. And if we look on the left-hand side here, the very first column, I see my permissions directory that I created. Notice the D. This lets us know that this file type is a directory. This is a dash because this is not a directory, it's a file. So here we got directory, directory, file, file, directory, directory, directory. So right now we're inside of our directory, and then the next set is our permissions. Right, so here I have the read, write, and execute. This right here has the execute and the read and execute. So let's create a file. So we'll say touch file1.txt, and there's our file1.txt. Now let's just do the ls minus la again, and down here at the bottom, notice this is D for directory, and as we learned a minute ago, there's the dash for our file. So let's now change. We want to make sure that everyone, for some reason, has the read, write, execute for the user group, the user permission, the group permissions, and everyone else. So there's one set, here's a second set, here's a third set. Now look at the difference between the file and the permissions. The file itself has RW, so that means that they can read and they can write, whoever owns this file, but they can't execute it. Here they can read it, the group itself, and then they can read it, everyone else. Now I want the file to be 755. That means that the owner can do everything and everyone else can do a read and write. I'm sorry, why did I say that? They can do a read and an execute, but not write to it. Do the ls.la again, and I want to change the permission for file 1, so I'm going to say chmodify. And I wanted to give it 755 for file1.txt. And now let's do the ls minus la again. And let's compare the bottom one to the top one. Notice up here, file1.txt had RW, but now down here in green, the color changed because now it has read, write, and execute. We didn't touch the other two. Now what if I gave the read, write, and executable, RWX, to all three of them? So what we would do there is we would say chmodify, want it to be recursive, and then I'm going to say 777. So now I'm giving all three, in other words, the user, which is the first number, the group, which is the second number, and everyone else, we're giving them read, write, and execute privileges. Be very, very, very careful when you do this. We're doing it because we're training right now. And so that was file1.txt. And then let's do once again that LA. And notice now it's still in green, But here I have read, write, execute for the user. Read, write, execute for the group. Read, write, and execute for everyone else. Okay, so let's do one more thing. Let's do an ls minus l only. And I want to show you something here. I see root, and then I see root, and I don't see anything else for file.txt. So we've been talking about this over here, the dash meaning that this is a file, and then there's three groups of permission. RWX, that's because my user is root. Then the next one, RWX, my group is root. So I have a root user inside of a root group, and then everyone else is going to have the same permissions. Well, the same exact permission. Like I said, I'm a little hesitant because I'm just showing you for training, but this is not something you want to do lightly. You want to be really, really, really careful with that whenever you do this. Another thing we can do is, let's actually do that for the directory itself. So just like before, we're going to say chmod because we're going to modify. I want this to be recursive in case there's anything in there. And then I'm going to say 755. So the user or the owner, so root, is going to have all privileges, and then the group, which is root, and everyone else are going to stay at 5. That 5 would be that they can read it and execute it, but not write to it. Sudo chmod recursive 755, and then let's do an ls minus l. And permissions, let's look at this. Here I have, it's a D for directory, read, write, execute, once again for the user, XR, which means I have for the group and for everyone else, they can read it, they can execute it, but they can't write to it. So here we can see that the privileges are different for the file and for the directory. Now, I really want to make sure that we get this right, so I'm going to do this one more time. Something I don't recommend, but just for training purposes, we're going to say sudo chmodify recursive, and this time we're going to say 777 for the folder permissions. Make sure I spell it correctly. Let me just clear, this is getting a little messy. So I'm going to say ls minus l, and now that I have D for directory, read, write, execute for the user, read, write, execute for the account or the group, and then read, write, execute for everyone else, look what happens. This looks completely different. So let's make another directory, and we're just going to do a test folder, test directory, and let's do the ls minus l, and notice the difference. Here's a D because the test is a directory, here's a D because permissions is a directory, but because of the differences in the permissions, you'll notice a difference on this end, okay? Now today's the 27th, well, according to the clock on my server, February. So this is just telling us the day that we're creating these files and the time.